I got the second phone call and they started to go in depth into what they wanted me to do. And what it was is that they wanted me to... I can't. I really... Oh my gosh, I just can't. Touch me, touch me, touch me. Oh, just let the fun begin. Teach me. Now, I have been doing YouTube for just over 3 months now. And in doing so, I have a little system in place. And that system is to think about the topic I want to talk about that week, research it, make sure that I'm knowledgeable in that topic, and then I'll write bullet points to help me when I'm shooting the video. And that's what I did this week. So I was prepared and quite happy with what I was doing until earlier on when I was getting ready to do this video. And by getting ready, I mean putting on a bit of slap. While I was getting ready, I felt in my spirit I didn't want to do the topic that I had already researched and written about for the whole week. And I thought, well, if I don't do that, what would I do? And then I started thinking that for the past few days, I've been thinking a lot about my mother. Now, my mother passed away over 20 years ago. But I've been thinking about her a lot lately, and especially as Mother's Day has just passed. And by the way, I hope you mothers all had a wonderful Mother's Day celebration. I hope you were celebrated, loved, and appreciated on, because I know a lot of you are killing it day by day for your children. You show up for your kids and you give them and you do the best that you can. And as a mother myself, I know that it's not always easy, so I applaud you all. So yeah, I've been thinking about my mum, and I've been thinking about all those things that we never got a chance to talk about. All those things we never got the chance to discuss. The chance that she never met my daughter, and that hurts sometimes. You know, she was a simple woman, yet complex. She was a funny woman, yet quiet. She had lots of layers to her. And one of the things about my mum was she didn't really speak about her feelings. And if she was upset about something, she kept it in. Now, me personally, I couldn't be more different if I tried. If I'm upset, people are going to know about it. And if you're the one that upset me, you're definitely going to know about it. So what? You upset me and you're about living your best life and I'm supposed to be here kind of biting my nails and going crazy? I don't think so. If I'm upset, you're upset too. And it's not necessarily a good thing. It is just what it is. But I digress. There are so many things that I wish that my mother and I could have talked about. There's so many things that I wish that she would have taught me. Not those life lessons about love, about life itself, about motherhood, about relationships, about family, about friends. All those things that I talk about with my daughter, I wish that I had had the chance to talk about with my mother. All those life lessons that went unspoken. And that's what I was thinking about. That's the mood that I was in. That's the spirit that I had on me when I sat to do this video. So as it goes, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And I decided, you know what? I'm here and I can talk about what I want. So pushed aside the topic that I studied for the week. Forget about that. And I want to talk about those life lessons that I wish I had had the chance to talk about with my mother. I don't know where I'm going to go with it. I don't know what I'm going to say. But you know what? It's just me and you. So let's just have a conversation. So if you want to come along with me on this journey into the unknown, then you know what to do. You're not going anywhere, are you? Of course not. One of the things I wish that my mother had told me, and that is that I was beautiful. Because I've never felt beautiful
not as a child, not as a young girl, not as a teenager. I never thought for a second that I was. When I was at school, I was the tallest person in my school. Imagine that, the tallest. And I had a complex about that wasn't even funny. I was even almost taller than all the teachers. That's how tall I was. I'm 5'9", 5'10" now. So it's not as if I was 7 foot. It just so happened I was just the tallest. And I used to wear glasses too. So you can imagine the names that they called me. They called me Giraffe. They called me Four Eyes. What's the weather like up there? All the usual stuff. And I remember that so strong was the complex that I had that I used to walk around with a stoop. So my back was permanently curved. Thinking about it, that's probably why I have problems with my back today. But the fact is, yeah, I used to walk around with my friends who were all smaller than me, all shorter than me. I used to walk around with my back bent over so that I was their height. So embarrassed I was to be tall. Now, I don't know what happened, when it happened, or why it happened, but one day I just told myself, Angie, are you crazy? Why are you hiding and pretending to be something else? You are tall. Embrace that tallness. Stand up, girl. Straighten up. Don't be ashamed of who you are. So in that moment, I straightened up my back. I lifted up my head. And I began to walk tall. And I have been walking that way ever since. I'm proud of who I am. Now, as I'm older, I've grown into my skin. I love who I am. I love what I've become. I'm proud of myself. I'm happy with myself. But I wish it was something that I had grown with. I wish it was something that I was told when I was younger. You know, and to make up for that, maybe, that's why I tell my daughter every day that she's beautiful, that she's stunning, that she's wonderful, that she's amazing, and that she's my sunshine, and that she's like the best thing that ever happened to me. I want her to grow knowing that, and I don't want her to ever one day look back and say, God, I wish Mommy had told me that. But you know what? There's no resentment with my mom for not telling me those things, because I understand that she came from a different time and a different culture, and you know, they weren't so in tune with their feelings. So I get it. I get it. I just try and make up with it with my daughter. Another thing I wish that my mum had taught me, and that is to trust my instinct. Now, we, especially us women, but it's not just a female thing, we all have that instinct, that gut that tells us when something is right, when something is wrong, when something's off, when there's a warning sign, when we should be careful. We all have that little feeling. And sometimes we go with it, and sometimes we choose to ignore it. It took me a while to learn to trust it, because at the beginning I didn't know what it was. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the courage or the know-how to follow and to trust my instinct. And now that I do, it is something that has helped me a lot in life. It's helped me out of a lot of bad situations. It's allowed me to see certain people for who they are. And it's allowed me also to accept love into my life when I probably thought that I didn't deserve it at the time. So yes, learning to trust my instinct is something that I've had to learn on my own. I do wish that my mum had told me about it. Girl, just trust your instincts. You know what's what. I would have loved to have heard that. But it wasn't to be. But it's all good. Another thing I wish that Mum had had the chance to tell me, and that is all of this exterior thing, it's wonderful, it's great. We all want to be attractive, we all want to look good, but in time, it fades. And in time, it means nothing. What's really important is the character. If you're a kind person, if you're empathetic, if you're loving, if you're generous, these are the things that we should try to build. These are the things that we should work on. A lot of us, myself included, I will spend time on what's outside, on my hair, on my makeup, what looks good, what doesn't look good. And I've learned to invest time also in what's within, because these things are more important, because beauty fades, it can go. And what's left? If you're a horrible, nasty person and you're unattractive too, please. So at least if the beauty fades, but you're still beautiful inside, you still have a beautiful character, that is something that is, I think, is really, really important. Another lesson that I wish I'd learned, and that is that life isn't a fairy tale. There's not necessarily going to be a happy ever after. We're going to experience loss, grief, upset, disappointment. People are going to enter our lives. People are going to leave our lives. There are so many things that are going to happen, and we have to learn to accept it, embrace it, and go with the flow. And quite honestly, when I was younger, I didn't think about grief. I didn't think about loss. I didn't know what it meant. And I would have liked to have been a bit more prepared about it. I never knew my grandparents. They had already passed when I was born. So not knowing them, I didn't lose them. So when you're growing up, you don't think about loss. You don't think about you can lose anybody. And when you do, it really is like a sucker punch to the gut. And I think like a little heads up, a little warning. I know it's difficult because nobody wants to talk about death, and how can you really be prepared? Like my daughter has grandparents, and she lost her grandfather a couple of years ago. So we were able to talk about it and talk about the grief and the sadness. And those kind of things I think are important to prepare you for later on in life. And I think those kind of things is something that's important to know. I don't know if it is for you, but for me it is. I think I would have liked to have had a little bit of a heads up, because when you lose somebody and you don't really know what it's like and you don't really know what it means, it just hits you, and that pain is brutal. I've definitely talked about death with my daughter, and hopefully she's a little bit more prepared than I was. Another thing I think I wish I had been taught, and that was to fight fair. Because it took me a while to learn how to do that. Because when I was growing up, because I was the tallest, and because I didn't feel beautiful, and because I felt that I wasn't happy in my skin, it made me aggressive sometimes. And sometimes I felt that I had to protect myself. And protecting yourself, it makes you angry. If somebody says something to you that you don't like, you feel quite within your right to pounce and to make a big deal out of it. But I've learned that you can get your point across speaking softly, without swearing, without raising your voice, without being angry. And in effect, it's more effective, because people don't really know what's going on when they know you're angry, when they know you're upset, but you're not screaming. People expect you to scream and shout when you're upset. They don't expect you to be level-headed and speak quietly. So yeah, I think that is something that I've definitely had to learn on my own back. And I'm glad that I did. That there are a lot of people out there that they react angrily, and I guess it's just a front. It's just a way of protecting yourself. I think that we need to learn, if you really want to get somebody, if you really want to get them good, don't scream and shout and swear at them. They're expecting that. Just look them in the eye and speak softly and tell them your truth and tell them exactly what you feel about the situation and about them. They won't know what to do, and they won't know what hit them. So that's a little tip. You're welcome. Another thing I wish that I had been taught, and that is to say no. Doesn't matter what comes up in life, no matter what the situation, if you're not happy with it, if you're not feeling it, if you feel that it's something that goes against your needs and your principles, don't be afraid to say no. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a husband or a partner or a boss doesn't matter. And I know that it's hard to do that sometimes, but when it's doing the right thing, ever easy. I remember years ago, I got a phone call from a TV studios in Rome. And at the time, I was working on television, but I was singing in this show. And when I got this phone call, they had seen me in television as a singer, right? And they had called me because they were about to produce this TV series that went on to be well known and international famous TV series. And that's what they were doing. And they wanted to offer me a part. To offer me a part in a TV series, my first thought was, yes, thank you. No, because I love the idea, even though I've never been trained as an actress, I don't know anything about acting, but it's something that I would like to do. It is. It's like a little dream to be an actress. A part of me did think, well, it's not really fair because there are so many people who have studied and they are being passed upon by someone like me just because I happened to be in TV at the time. But you know what, I guess that's life, and you can't solve every ill in the world. So I said, yeah, I would love to do it. So they said, okay, someone will contact me further on down the line. And someone did contact me and I was really happy about it. I think, oh my God, to do this TV series, that would be great. And I was looking forward to it and I was preparing myself. The only downside was that I might have to transfer to Rome for a few months because that is where they were shooting this series. And I remember at the time, my husband said, don't worry about it. Whatever you want to do, I will support you. I'm here for you. The decision is yours. So I said, okay, that's wonderful. I got the second phone call and they started to go in depth into what they wanted me to do. And what it was is that they wanted me to... I can't. I really... Gosh, I just can't.
If you've got this far, please give this video a thumbs up.
Okay, let's compose myself. They wanted me to be like a servant, that mammy kind of servant with the turban and the apron and all of that. And I remember thinking, here we go. And they said, you know what, it's a great role because you will be the center of everything, because you will be in the home and you'll be the one that, you're the one that's organizing everything. You're the one that keeps the house together. So it'll be a great role for you. I said, okay, here we go. I was saying, you look at me and it just amazes me that you don't see a doctor. You don't see a lawyer. You don't see a pilot. You don't see a teacher. You see a mammy. Is that what you see when you look at me? And they were quiet. And they said, well, we think that, we've seen you on TV and, we just think that you would be great in the role. And I said, you know what? Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. But I'm just going to have to say no. Now, a lot of people said to me, are you crazy to have a part you haven't studied and somebody just offered to you on a plate, a show on TV? And I think, you know what? Not all fame is good fame and not all money is good money. If I can't go and tell my family, my sisters, if I can't be proud of what I'm doing, I ain't doing it. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're an actor, if you're an actress and you're an actor and you've studied and you have a whole range of acting, then it's right that one day you play a servant, one day you could play a mammy, the next day you could play a judge. But you're going to have the opportunity to show your range. So if you're an actor and you want to do that, that's fine. But for me, that would probably be the only chance that I will have. And to be the only role to be a mammy, I couldn't do it. And not only that, they looked at me, they saw me sing, they saw me do my thing, and they looked at me and they thought, she'll be great as a mammy. Why is that? Am I supposed to be happy with that? But regardless, I said no. Felt great about it. To this day, I feel great about it. No regrets. And the show went on to do well, which is absolutely wonderful. No regrets, no resentment. I am so happy that I said no. And that's, I guess, which is part of what I talked about a few weeks ago, which is self-esteem. If you have a high self-esteem, I don't care what's going on around me. I have to do what's good for me. So I have absolutely no regrets on turning it down. I'm happy that I did. And that's something that I had to learn. I had to learn to say no. And it took a while, because I used to feel really bad about saying no. I felt really bad letting people down, but I don't anymore. Now I have to do what's good for me. Now I have to do what works for me. Now I have to do what makes me happy. And if that means saying no, then so be it. Another thing that I was never taught, and that is to listen. And that took me a while. Actually, that took me a hell of a while, because I couldn't listen. I had to be right. And it was hard for me to listen to other people. Now, as I get older, I might not agree with you, but I can hear you. I understand where you're coming from. I get it. I will listen. And that took me a hell of a long time to learn. Maybe longer than it should have, to be honest with you. But learn it I did. You have to accept people where they're at. And that's where I was for the longest time. Couldn't hear other voices apart from my own. And I teach that to my daughter. My daughter speaks several languages and she's very articulate. And I say to her, well, okay, everybody knows now that you speak well. Everybody knows that. That's wonderful. But can you listen? And that is something that I'm teaching her, and she's learning that too. There was a time when every argument to me was like the end of the world, because I felt that arguments was a bad thing. It meant that the relationship was going to finish. I wish that Mum had taught me that there's nothing wrong with arguing. You're going to have disagreements. Of course you are. You're not always going to see eye to eye. You're not even always going to like the person and what they say and what they do. And if you argue, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I guess that comes from feeling insecure. Don't have that insecurity to think just because we're fighting, just because we're arguing, that it's going to end. There's nothing further from the truth. And to be honest with you right now, I kind of enjoy a good argument. It keeps me on my toes and it keeps me young. Do you know what I mean? It keeps my brain going, because I have to look for the different arguments and try to be right and playing devil's advocate and all kinds of stuff. So I don't have a problem with arguing. Actually, I kind of enjoy it. It took me a long time to show the vulnerable side of me. I always used to hold on to that, because I thought that being vulnerable was a sign of weakness, and being vulnerable just opened myself up to being used and to be taken advantage of. But now, as I'm older, it has taken me a while to learn that there is nothing wrong with being vulnerable. Actually, it makes you human, and it makes people look at you in a certain way. They have like a common bond with you. There's nothing wrong in telling someone that you're hurt. There's nothing wrong in telling someone and showing them your feelings. And if you are vulnerable to someone and they take advantage of that, then hey, that's on them. That's not on you. I can't control what other people do, what other people think. I can only control who I am and what I do. And as it stands now, the older I get, I'm not hiding anything. I want to be open as much as I can be, because life is short and there's no point in holding on to things and pretending to not feel things. If I'm feeling it, I'm telling it. And I guess that's something that comes with age, and that's wisdom. So yeah, there is nothing wrong with being vulnerable. There is no weakness in being vulnerable at all. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me. It's been fun walking down memory lane and thinking about my mum and stuff like that. And even though missing her, it's also nice to miss someone, because missing someone means that they are loved. So thank you for being with me on this journey. I look forward to seeing you again soon, but until then, be kind to yourself and to others. Take care. Bye for now. Ciao.